Hey, YouTube. Well, I'm here to talk about Queen Sugar, Season 5, Episode 4. And I gotta fix my speed here again. No, that's all right. Should work okay. Okay, so we're talking about Queen Sugar. It opens up with Blue, Darla, and Ralph are all on the porch together. And Blue is kind of showing off a little bit of his knowledge because he is very knowledgeable about what is safe, what is not safe, about temperatures and things like that, about how they should be acting in this pandemic, right? So we just see him. He's growing up before our eyes. You know, before when we first met him, he was a little kid. And now I guess he's around 13 years old. 12 years old, I'd say. Anyway, so they're having a little family time. Next thing we see is Calvin. Calvin, we met his two children last week at that party, and the son, who was a little older than the daughter, was fine. The little girl was fine with Nova, but the son had a little chip on his shoulder because he's being fed by the mother, who is still distraught or very angry because her husband has left her for Nova, and he was cheating on her, right? So Calvin announces to Nova, for some reason or other, they live in their own, in Nova's house. My feeling has always been that when couples get together, they have their own separate houses and things. They should just get their own place together, because no matter how close they get, it's still going to feel like that. And I'm sure when they argue, it's going to feel like that is Nova's house. Anyway, he has moved in with her. I guess it makes sense that whoever is the most stable, if one has a house and one lives in an apartment, obviously you move to the house kind of thing. But at some point, I think they need to get their own house together. Anyway, so he has to get her permission because his daughter, who is in college, her college is shutting down and they're sending them home. She wants to come home and spend time with her father as opposed to with her mother, right? So he's confronting Nova with this. Nova is not at all that excited about the idea at first because she feels like it was going to be another situation just like with the other family members where they're not going to be very accepting of her. They're going to see her as a homewrecker. They're going to see her as a black woman, on and on and on. She's making all of these assumptions about what this little girl's attitude will be, right? However, she said, "You're my man. I'm not going to try to stand between you and your children." So even though she's not crazy about the person coming to stay with them, she realized this is his daughter. So she's coming, right? Charlie and Micah are bonding while stuck at home. Okay, so Charlie was longing for her son because he had went off to college, and she had been totally on her own. I don't know what I guess they did away with her little boyfriend from last season. Remember, she was seeing a little Spanish doctor, and I believe she was doing something that he felt was against his community. And they broke up, so she's by herself now. Stop, boy, stop. Anyway, so they're bonding together. They're sharing memories and things like that because they're stuck in the house together. That falls apart a little bit in a minute, but we'll get to that. A couple other things happened first. We jump to last week. Baby, do you have to go into the dungeon? Please be quiet. Okay, last week, Hollywood's mother, his mother wouldn't answer the phone. He decided to go there to where she was. I believe it's Baton Rouge. He decided to go where she was, but this week we're finding out that she is in the hospital actually, and they kind of rushed this a little bit because we went from she won't answer the phone, but a neighbor has talked to her, to now she's in a hospital, and now he's in the parking lot for several days because he can't get up to see his mother. He's trying to identify what window she's in or anything. But he's tried several times. He can't get in to see his mother because she has got coronavirus, right? And she's on a ventilator, so she is very sick with coronavirus. So they show him calling Vi and explaining the situation. Vi wants to be there with him. He tells her no, it is the safest thing for them to do is for her to stay where she's at. All right, so Cortney arrives. Calvin's daughter's name is Cortney. She's a beautiful blonde girl, and her attitude is good. They show just a millisecond of her of some hesitation when they first meet. Just a moment though, and then they realize that the girl actually likes Nova a lot, and they have several moments after she comes there. She didn't have a problem with Nova at all. In her opinion, this is the happiest she's ever seen her father. So even though they were a family, they lived in the same house. He was a cop. I guess the mother was a housewife. He was never happy there. She could tell it. She can tell that he is. That's a very real thing, though. Because this guy's bisexual guy I was with, right? I can notice in the pictures, I was with him for 8 years, in and out of prison, me and him. And when he was with me, he was bisexual, I guess. I mean, on the low end of bisexual. But when I saw him with a woman, his whole demeanor changed. That's where he belonged. He didn't really belong with the guy. He always looked uncomfortable if there was ever a picture taken of the two of us, or we were around other people. He always seemed uncomfortable to me. But when I saw him with the woman he ended up marrying, I could tell he just seemed a lot more relaxed, a lot more himself, much more personality than I ever saw. I think that's where he belongs. Anyway, she says that her father's never been as happy, so it makes her happy. Prosper calls Vi. Prosper is still depressed, right? He is very scared. He has right to be afraid. So Prosper says, well, he don't say it yet. Vi offers him, why don't you come? Since Hollywood is not here, I'm here by myself. I'm used to being around people. You're used to being around people. Why don't you just come and stay with me, right? And to my amazement, he actually likes the idea. He comes to stay with Vi. And they are not having masks on, but neither of them, as far as we know, are positive. So I guess that they're going to be a temporary family, whatever. But so now Prosper is staying at Vi's house until Hollywood gets back, or longer. I'm sure they have more than one bedroom there. Charlie and Micah. Charlie starts telling Micah about how she was pregnant in college, what it was like for her, how she was able to still maintain straight A's while being a mother in college. So she's around 20 years old, and she went on to explain that she was with Davis at the time, but Davis was a semi-professional athlete, college athlete, so he wasn't around that much. But I guess these are stories that he had never heard before, because they're locked in there together, and he is now an adult. So it's an adult talking to another adult, and she's got to get used to treating him as an adult, right? Stop, boy. Okay, so now next thing we see is there's a guy. Will you be quiet? Oh, there's people out in the hallway. That's what the T is. Okay. Yeah. You want to go in here? Go in that room? He doesn't talk much. Okay, so Ralph meets this guy. There's this guy in there. Apparently he used to be a boxer or something. He's in there shadow boxing. And he's an older black guy. He's a senior. He lives in a senior facility, the one where Ralph works, right? But he has a wife who he's been married to for something like 60 years, or very close to 60 years, basically their whole lives. But his wife got early stages of dementia, so she's in a different facility, a more of a care type facility, on the same property, but they're not together in the same as husband and wife, right? He meets him. They started talking. So now Ralph has made a friend in this place where he works at. Okay. Then they shift over to Darla now. Darla is having a really rough time. Her son is driving her crazy. Of course, she loves her child, but being with him all the time. I was kind of surprised at this scene, because it's not something that you would hear a mother say out loud. But I guess as long as the kid doesn't hear, she's letting her husband know, Ralph Angel, not yet her husband, that she's having a very hard time being there with him all the time and keeping him entertained, because he's a very smart kid, and it's frustrating her to try to be with him around the clock. Okay, so Ralph comforts her. They've softened his personality on Ralph quite a bit, because at first, the last seasons, over the last 4 years, I was not feeling Ralph as her husband. He seemed to be too problematic, always crying, always complaining, always miserable, always on the verge of going off. I don't know why he wouldn't though, it's been 5 years, has matured somewhat, that he doesn't seem to be panicking like ordinarily the old Ralph. We would expect him to be in crisis because he couldn't bring his crop that year. But this Ralph, instead, he just goes and gets himself a job to carry the business, realizing that will just be a better crop next year. Right? I think that's kind of new for him. So maybe they are a decent couple. They're still in love with each other. Yeah, so Darla needs a job. She wants a job, not only for money, but for just having something else to do. But this boy Blue, he's going to still have to have homeschooling and all that. He can't be there by himself. And Ralph is working, so maybe she won't even be able to get the job. Maybe she can get something part-time, they'll toggle the time or whatever. But as far as I know, Blue is out of school as well. Let's see. Okay, Nova and Cortney have become friends. There's a scene where they're playing cards, and Calvin has said something that might sound a little sexist to them about them being too aggressive in the card game. So they have similar views as women. They're bonding as women. So Nova is actually taking a liking to the young girl. Right. And that's around the time that he says that this is the happiest I've ever seen my father. Then we see Hollywood calling Vi to tell her that they are taking his mother off of the ventilator. Now, we didn't know his mom. We just got to know her, I believe, last week or the week before last, just on Zoom kind of thing. But I can see that they would have to kill somebody off in this thing, since this worldwide pandemic is the news, and this is primarily what this whole season is about. I would imagine some people are going to die. We're praying that they don't kill off Prosper in this situation, right? But so his mother is the first one we see dying. Prosper says that this is the 5th person who has died in the last 2 months. So he is terrified of this thing, which I guess a lot of seniors would be. Now, I don't know how old Prosper is, but I think he's in his 70s. Okay. So he calls, says they're taking her off the ventilator. So his mom is dying, and he still cannot even see her. He hasn't talked to her. I don't know if they would. Because she had at one point, she had an iPad. I don't know if they didn't present that as a scene though, of him talking to her, at least on his iPad thing. But if she was on a ventilator, she might not have been able to talk. It's just they're just separated. That was a big story in the news here. People's parents, older people, were dying, and they couldn't even say goodbye. That's been worked into the story. Charlie is sitting on the couch. Micah's phone goes off. She picks it up, and she can hear a party going on, right? And she hears all this noise from this party going on. So I guess somebody was calling him from the party. Oh my God, I got toe ache. Somebody called her from the party, and she was cooking earlier, and she kept asking Micah, was he hungry? Because she was starving. How can you not be hungry? And now she's seeing that, oh, he has plans. So he was planning on going to this party because somebody from the party was saying, come on, where you at? She is furious about this. He tells her, of course, he's mad. You're spying on me, picking up my phone or whatever. I just picked it up to hand it to you, and they haven't fallen out, right? And then Michael Charlie starts asking about this girl he's seeing, right? And the moment he says that the girl's name, what's her name? She wants to know her name. At least if you're gonna be messing with this girl who was out at parties and getting you to come to parties, I want to know her name. When he says Amber, he said, "You're seeing a white girl?" So I guess nobody's allowed to be black. I know Amber. I know a transgender black girl named Amber, whatever. Charlie jumped to the conclusion that this girl was white because of the, although she's talked to her on the phone. I guess she couldn't tell. But he says, Amber, she jumps to the conclusion, you're seeing a white girl, and she wants to know, are you using protection? Because remember now, anything he goes out there and picks up, he's going to bring it back to her. Right? She don't want him to get sick, and she don't want her to get sick. Because if he goes to a party where he's exposed to all these people, these super spreader events, and then he brings it back home, I mean, that's going to affect everybody in the house, which is only him and her. Okay. So she wants to know, make sure that he's using protection. Also, I'm sure she don't want him coming home with no babies. Because that's what happened to her. She got pregnant while still in college. Then we got a sad scene where we see that Vi has told Mr. Prosper that Mr. Prosper is not aware that the situation has worsened with Hollywood's mother. Vi has to tell him, after he comes to the stater with her, that Hollywood's mother has died. She's passed. Of course, he's devastated by this news because he's already trembling in his boots about this virus that they don't totally understand how to stay safe. And now he's saying that another woman has died. So Prosper says there's 5 people in 2 months that he knows who have died from this coronavirus. Mm-hmm. Okay, then we see Ralph on his job. He's made friends with this older guy who was a resident at this facility where he works. And it's the guy's birthday. His wife, he hasn't seen his wife because they're on like a quarantine because somebody's come to the facility who tested positive. So now they're all on lockdown, right? He can't see his wife, not even on his birthday. So Ralph takes it upon himself. This is his new friend. He goes and gets the lady from next door, and he brings her to a glass door where he can at least see his wife through the door. Now, they've been together for 60 years. This also teaches Ralph. I mean, the guy gives Ralph some jewels of wisdom, and Ralph immediately goes home, and now he wants to get married right now. Because the man was explaining how things don't matter, all the things you accumulate, the things that you think are so important. In the end, what matters is somebody to love you. This is the primary thing. Mm-hmm. So that's a nice scene where he shows that the 2 people got together. He's madly in love with his woman. That was nice after 60 years. Then we just see Charlie apologizing to Micah, telling them more stories about what it was like dealing with his father. They make up. I don't know, still have no idea what happened to Parker. Remember, Parker just disappeared real quick. Now, Parker, my guess was when she disappeared was that since this season is all about Corona, I think maybe she lost somebody. We know who her father was. I don't know who her mother was. Perhaps her mother or father have become sick. Her father is Landry. So we haven't seen him either. So we don't know what happened to Parker. But apparently she's going to be a primary character in this season. She just upped and left. Okay, so as it winds down, Hollywood is talking to his dead mother who's recently passed. He's going over some scrapbooks and finding some old postcards he sent her from when he was working on the rig. And it makes him cry. And then he starts talking to his dead mother. At the same time, they show Ralph talking to his dead father. Just speaking out into the atmosphere kind of thing. People do stay with you. I mean, even after they're gone for a long time, you feel like you can still communicate with them. They're still there. They're still present in your life. You lose a parent, they're always with you. You always know what they would say or how they would react kind of thing. So Ralph's father has been gone a little while longer, but we don't know how much time has passed. But Hollywood has just lost his mother. Last thing we got after that conversation in the facility with that old guy, Ralph goes and he wants to get married to Darla now. I mean, they were already engaged, but now they don't want to wait. She says, let's do it tomorrow. And that's pretty much how they left it off. So it's all about relationships, people. Everybody is in a relationship with someone else, right? And we'll see you next week. That was it.